Nashville Predators start slow yet again and just can't quite get anything going against the LA Kings. A 4-2 loss. The biggest question I have, where is the urgency with this team right now? We'll talk about it on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day every single day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, want to start out with a special shout out to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys and we appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at the Hockey News.
Want to mention today's episode also brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, Ann, another Nashville Predators game. Another Nashville Predators loss. It is going sideways very fast, my friend. 3 straight losses for the Preds, 6 losses in their last 8 games. And I think the thing is, and I would argue last night, the Preds lose 4-2 to the LA Kings. You look at the shots, and it's 42 shots for Nashville, 24 to LA. And you would look at that and say, oh, okay, this must be a case of the Nashville Predators just sort of dominating possession and can't finish or running into a good goaltending performance. I don't know. Like, I look at this and I was kind of surprised at that stat line because it never really seemed like the Preds were on the front foot, despite what some of the stats say. It was just the feel of the game. Kind of just felt like no energy whatsoever.
Yeah, it was an interesting game. You have 2 teams coming in, both teams really desperate to get this win. LA Kings needed this win. They've really struggled in January. Their head coach has been kind of on the hot seat. There have been some whispers. There have been some talk that hey, this has got to get turned around. And the LA Kings were also a team. This is a contender. I mean, at the beginning of the season, this was a team that everybody said, hey, you've got to keep your eye on the LA Kings. They may have it. They may have what they need. The season hasn't gone that way. So you come into this game and you think this is going to be a game that has kind of that playoff urgency feel. And I don't think that execution was poor by the Nashville Predators. And you mentioned, is this a case of just not finishing, a hot goaltender? I do think that plays a part. But in the end, what really matters is that the Nashville Predators didn't get those 2 points, and somebody they are in the wildcard chase with did.
Yes, that's the big takeaway. It's not just who the Nashville Predators, or it's not the Nashville Predators picking up a loss, it's who they're losing to. And
right.
We said it yesterday, these are the types of games, if you really want to make the postseason, I'm not sure some of the fans want to, but if the Nashville Predators want to, these are the games that you kind of have to win. You have to win these battles against the teams in the same spot as you. And Nashville just didn't do it. Let's get into the game last night. A wild first period, 14 shots by Nashville, 11 for LA. The Kings were the ones, however, that walked away with a goal in the first period, thanks to Carl Grundstrom. Second period, another sort of back and forth period until Alex Turcotte, his first career goal, which with how long he's been sort of in the mix for the Kings, that was kind of surprising to find out, to be honest, that was Turcotte's first goal. 2-0 LA. Filip Forsberg got one back 5 minutes into the third period with his 24th goal of the season. But then Trevor Lewis, who is still in the NHL, as we found out, He gets one back late for the Kings to make it 3-1. Tomasino made it interesting on another really, really nice goal for him, forcing a turnover that led to this play. But then Kevin Fiala with the empty net ices it with a minute left. Kings win this one 4-2. And what's your one word to describe this game?
This game to me was a Hallmark Christmas movie. During the Hallmark season, look, and I love it.
I'm already checked out.
Oh my gosh. This is me. I'm either watching sports or I'm watching the Hallmark Channel. Like, I don't even know how I'm one single person with that varied interest. But, you talk about Hallmark Christmas movies, and here's what's real. It's the exact same plot line. Some of the details are different. Somebody may own a Christmas tree farm, or somebody owns a candy factory, or somebody owns a cutesy bakery, but they're all in business trouble, and some stranger comes to town and it all works out. It's very much a similar plot line. The details are different, but you really kind of know how it's going to end even when it starts. And that's how this game felt. I'm like, hey, you know what, y'all? This is a Hallmark Christmas movie. We have seen this game before where the Nashville Predators come out. They do so many things well. They make a couple of mistakes. There's just these brief lapses in defense that the other team capitalizes on. Nashville generates a ton of quality chances. Nashville can't finish on them. The opposing goaltender looks outstanding. All you have to do is just sort of sub in different details. Like, hey, it's a different goaltender than normal. Hey, it's a different team. Hey, they scored first, we scored first. But in the end, you kind of know how this is going to end. And I will say, Roman Josi post-game said, I really felt like we were going to come back and get it in the third. Like, I felt like the way our game was going, we were going to come back and get it in the third. But it feels like we've seen this enough that we kind of sort of knew how it was going to end. So it was a frustrating Hallmark Christmas movie game for me.
For what it's worth, too, I thought the Predators played really well down the stretch in that third period.
Great third.
That was when you really saw them kind of put their foot on the gas and sort of gun it and go, go deep and start, playing with a lot of enthusiasm, with a lot of intensity. It's just, why didn't they do that earlier?
Right.
And that's kind of the $1 million question for these Nashville Predators. And my one word is 10-year-old lawnmower. So do you remember, like, back, I guess this is still a thing, like the lawnmowers where you really have to like pull the cord in order to get it? You really, when you start a lawnmower, you got to grip it and just grip it and rip it with some intensity. When you're like 10 years old and you're first learning how to use the lawnmower, like, you want to impress your dad, go out there, mow the front lawn, mow a little section. The hardest part for any 10-year-old is learning how to get the lawnmower to start. Because like I said, you got to grip it and rip it. But if you're 10 years old, you don't necessarily get that sort of, it's am I doing it right? Then it's like, you just kind of pull it and it doesn't start. Then it's just like, you kind of start to go like you're going, but you hesitate or you pull a little and rip too hard. It's like really trying to pull that cord.
Yes.
And it's not until, so obviously your lawnmower is not going to start. It's not until you finally get the handle to just pull it like all bejesus that you're going to get that lawnmower to start and turn over and just keep running constantly until you hit that off switch. Mm-hmm. That is what the Nashville Predators look like last night. In terms of intensity, in terms of urgency, they look like that 10-year-old kid trying to figure out how to turn the lawnmower. Yeah. There's moments, including a couple that we're going to get into after the break, moments in which they look like they were on the front foot, but then all of a sudden would, sort of hesitate to finish in their offensive zone, or, kind of choose to make a safe play after making a great play in their own zone. Kind of just not all in with the kind of cutthroat mentality to go out and score and go out and control the game. There are moments that they did, but there are moments also where they just looked hesitant, that they looked kind of apathetic. And that to me is kind of been the story of the past little bit. And we've talked about it. There's moments in which these Nashville Predators look brilliant, where they look like they're showing the flashes of what this Andrew Burnett, Barry Trotz system is going to look like. And then there's those moments where they're just completely overthinking, where they're in their own head, where they're just not pushing hard enough, where they're, kind of, have a chance to do like a really good, easy play and just sort of, hold the puck for 5 seconds while like the montage of equations goes over their heads.
It's like that Julia Roberts gif.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a mix of that. And, for the Nashville Predators, they just need to figure out a way to get out of their own head.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that analogy. Because there is like a start to pull it, pause. There is a start to pull it, but you lose the grip. I absolutely see that analogy as we watch this Nashville Predators team really try to get to a consistent way of playing the game and the style of hockey they need to be playing.
Yeah. There is one moment in particular that we really need to talk about. And I think kind of encapsulates maybe that mindset that we're talking about for the Nashville Predators. We'll get into that in just 1 second, plus more takeaways from this game coming up in a minute. But first, want to mention today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Folks, Super Bowl Sunday, right around the corner. I hope you guys are picking out your favorite dip recipes, getting those chicken wings ready to go in the freezer, figuring out what your best marinade are going to be, maybe loading up the beer cave a little bit. Football is fantastic on Super Bowl Sunday, and so is the betting scene. And if you're like me, FanDuel is the place to go for all of your Super Bowl betting activities. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end Super Bowl Sunday with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, prop bets like the national anthem, coin toss, that sort of thing, and much, much more. New customers join today and get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. That's right. All you have to do is win a $5 bet and you can get $200 in bonus bets. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon to sign up. Again, fanduel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Ann, talking about sort of the Preds mindset in some of these games, one thing that I want to talk about is the play at the end of the first period, heading into the first intermission.
Yeah.
The Preds were on the power play. I want to say this whole sequence started with 15 seconds left. Preds have the puck in their own zone. They're cycling around. The clock is running down. Fans are getting restless.
Yes.
I want to say with 8 seconds left, the puck gets shot, not at the net, but around the boards to kind of keep the cycle going. And then there's a puck battle. I want to say it was Nyquist that then had the puck in the slot, turned around to go below the red line again. And this is like 5-4-3. Preds never got a shot off, despite having possession for the last 15 seconds. That's your chance. Like, that's kind of who cares what happens if you turn the puck over in that situation? Because the period's going to end anyway.
Mm-hmm.
LA's not going to skate up the ice and score with 3 seconds left, 2 seconds left. Just shoot the puck. Like, that's like, you got to get something on goal in that situation and just hope for anything. And if they clear, that's fine. Whatever. You're going into intermission. You're going to have some time left on the power play coming out of the break, but it's like, it's those moments.
Yes.
And, I know a lot of people say, like, it's a 60-minute game. You got to do this consistently. But it's, for me, and Andrew Burnett talked about this a little bit too, it's about managing the moments of a game where you have to break the game up into little clusters of time. And on a power play, with time running down in the period, that's a big opportunity. That's a big opportunity to get really aggressive and just kind of start throwing stuff on net, forcing the other team to, sort of just be like, oh God, I hope this clock runs out. And that was a giant missed opportunity for the Predators. And it just sort of felt like a microcosm of this, not doing enough to just go out and grab the game sort of effort that we're seeing from the Preds.
Yeah, it's the rip it and grip it. Nobody was ripping or gripping.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Andrew Burnett has talked about these moments in games. It's all about game management. And when you are at the end of a period, you have to be aware of how much time is on the clock. You have to be aware of the fact that, look, you are facing the number one power play in the league. You are not going to get a perfect shot. You're probably not going to score against the LA Kings on the power play with one shot from the blue line or with a shot from a circle. You're going to get a rebound. That's how you're going to score on them. But when you are circling the perimeter, and it's such a critical moment in the game, the Nashville Predators have given up big moments at the end of periods so often, but they aren't taking the big moments like this one at the end of a period. How different this game would have looked, even if the Predators hadn't scored, but if they had put kind of a barrage on net and really pressured David Rittich, even if they don't get a goal in that little pocket of power play that they had, it would have been a momentum changer, and it was a missed opportunity. That's that game management, again, that Andrew Burnett's talking about. What I find kind of interesting / alarming is that happened with a number of veterans on the ice. Like, that was power play one, baby. That was Josi. That was Forsberg. That was Nyquist. Like, you're talking about veterans. This isn't your young players who just don't quite have the groove of game management yet. And those are moments that are going to haunt the Nashville Predators until they clean it up. I mean, I'm having flashbacks to the Nick Morgan quip, shoot the puck. I mean, that was literally the entirety of Bridgestone Arena. I thought they were going to lose their Jesus. Because
I haven't gone off the rails as much as the Mikael Granlund thing, but I'm close. And it feels like those kind of plays happen a lot. And that's, I think, one of the biggest points you said is, look, hey, we've kind of, come down on some of the younger players for stuff like this, Tommy Novak and Luke Evangelista in recent weeks.
Right.
This happened on the number one power play unit. This was Roman Josi on the ice. This was Filip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly on the ice. Those are the guys you shouldn't be worrying about hockey awareness with. Those are the guys that you should sort of set an example for. So yeah, I mean, that is kind of the biggest takeaway, is not just that the Preds did it, but it's the guys that should be setting the tone, kind of playing without intensity. Yeah. And what else stood out for you in this game last night?
We talked about, the Predators having chances and not finishing. And I do think that is part of the storyline of this. I think the Predators did a lot of things well again in this game, outshot the Kings 42-24. They had, almost twice as many high danger chances. They dominated in puck possession. They outshot the Kings 18-3 in the third period. They hit the post 3 or 4 times. You had 2 really good shorthanded chances by Colton Sissons. You had 7 shots on the power play opportunities, and Nashville's not capitalizing. And, really we asked about it in the post game, because it's like, hey, the elephant's in the room. Like, let's talk about this. And we talked with Josi, we talked with Forsberg, and they're both like, look, in practice, we've got to up what we're doing. You've got to pick your spot, and you've got to make the shot. Filip Forsberg said everybody over break needs to be shooting pucks and getting them in the net. It is so frustrating. And, part of it is, you kind of talk about, you joke about the hockey gods. Part of it is just, physics and the hockey gods. But there is a point at which some of it is confidence. Some of it is pausing. We talked about that power play, missed opportunity. Part of that is there's a learning that needs to go on there. And I think that it's really become very frustrating for the Predators. I think it's certainly frustrating for people watching the games, because these are games you're leaving points on the board when you're not finishing these chances. So for me, again, you can say David Rittich had a good game, and he did. David Rittich had some great saves, but you know what? There were shots that you just need these to go in. And again, I feel like we're a broken record here. We talk about this and we talk about this and we talk about this, but here we are talking about it. Hallmark Christmas movie, my friends. They end up together.
How should we feel that this isn't getting any better?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit concerning. I also think this is one of those growth things for the team. And Andrew Burnett talked about this. Barry Trotz talked about this yesterday on 102.5 on Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman, talking about kind of where the Predators are struggling with finishing. I think there's a number of elements. First of all, I do think that there's just hesitation. There's too cute. There's waiting for the perfect shot. That's something that you just got to keep coaching. I do think part of it is confidence. Andrew Burnett said, look, we've got some players, young players and veteran players who are maybe gripping the stick too tight because they are a little bit snake bit and they want to wait for the perfect goal to get back to scoring. Well, that's not working.
Yeah.
I think part of it too is there is a fatigue factor. You've got these young players who are working their way through their first 50 games of an NHL season, but you've also relied super heavily on your 3 veteran forwards. Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist. I mean, my gosh, Ryan O'Reilly logged so much ice time. And I think these guys are probably fatigued. And you combine that with, you had that stretch in November where it was an every other day games. You have West Coast travel, back home for a game, back to the West Coast. And I think there is a fatigue factor. I think there is a physical fatigue factor. I think there's also a mental fatigue factor because they aren't seeing success. And
Yeah.
I think that's wearing on them.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say it's as simple as, maybe they start scoring a little bit more, especially some of these young players. Maybe, they start having success on the power play and it's like, the dam falling over.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just the floodgates of all these goals and all these A+ opportunities open up. But, it's... I don't know, Ann. Like I see some of the play from last night, and I'm like, they're not doing themselves any favors. Like, yeah, they're getting these shots on goal, and yeah, they're pushing late in games, but I'm still just missing sort of the energy from this team.
Yeah,
and I think that's a big thing right now.
They don't have anybody going, and I think that affects everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Not even goaltending, which is another thing.
Yeah.
No Predators are going to be in the All-Star Skills competition coming up this weekend. Was Filip Forsberg robbed? We'll talk about that and other stuff to, I guess, look forward to this All-Star weekend. Coming up here in just 1 second. All right, Ann. All-Star break is finally here. For the Nashville Predators. The NHL put out the skills competition, the, I guess, free-for-all,
Yeah.
you're calling it, like the skills showcase. I don't know. I'm sure there's a cool name.
Some sort of fancy ditty for it, yeah.
Yeah. On the list is no Filip Forsberg, the Predators' only representative for All-Star Weekend. Any thoughts on Forsberg? Was he snubbed? Does this make sense?
I think it's a missed opportunity, but so very typical of the NHL. And on the one hand, I see what they're saying. Hey, you know what we're going to do? We've got these 6 categories that we're kind of highlighting. They've got accuracy, shooting, stick handling, hardest shot, pass challenge, one-timers, fastest skater, kind of all these exciting skill things that they're highlighting. And of course, it's going to be on ABC. So you want to kind of showcase the big names that everybody knows. You want to see the Connor McDavids, the Nathan McKinnons, JT Miller's getting some pretty good time. So I get it. On that hand, I get it on the one hand. On the other hand, you have so many players from some of these kind of medium market teams who may not be on teams that are in the top of their division, who are not competing for, a postseason game, who really have some skilled players on them that could stand to be showcased. I don't know, like maybe Filip Forsberg. Why Filip Forsberg is not in the stick handling competition, Mama just does not know. I just don't know. And I feel like it's so frustrating where you get it from a business standpoint, but the flip side is you've also now alienated a bunch of NHL fans that you had anyway, and you're not expanding and showcasing everything that there is in the league. So I have mixed feelings on this.
Here's the devil's advocate to that argument, though.
Bring it.
What have we said the past couple of All-Star games?
Boring.
Like where are the big stars? Like why aren't the NHL like picking, its 5 biggest stars and marketing around them?
Mhm.
To their credit, that's what they're doing this year, right?
They are doing it differently. Yeah.
Like, I mean, fastest skater is Connor McDavid versus Quinn Hughes versus Cale Makar. You're gonna have Nathan McKinnon competing. You're going to have Elias Pettersson competing. You're going to have Leon Draisaitl. You're going to have Austin Matthews. You're going to have David Pastrnak. It seems like, it's almost like pulling teeth to get that many high quality all-stars like into All-Star weekend.
Right.
Just from a voting standpoint, getting like physically getting them there, but also, getting them interested and getting them invested. So, I mean, if you're finally have an opportunity where you can see Connor McDavid compete against Austin Matthews and Nathan McKinnon directly, like, I get that. Like, that's actually a pretty good opportunity. And I think that's something that I think the players are invested in seeing. I think the players are invested in competing in that. And I think from a NHL marketing standpoint, I think that's something that fans would want to see, and that would, sort of build the fan base.
I can see that. I can see that.
That's the devil's advocate.
Yeah. I also think, you know what, if you've got 9 skaters going, you can maybe somebody could, you know what I'm saying? You can still get yourself some Connor McDavid versus Austin Matthews versus, Quinn Hughes, and still highlight some of these other guys. Like, look, if I'm Filip Forsberg and I'm tired and I'm going to, Vegas, and hey, by the way, you're not competing for $1 million, I'm a little salty.
Yeah, I guess. I guess you'll have to find something else to do in Las Vegas.
Right.
What could it be?
This could have been his baby moon, and he's spending it in Las Vegas, not winning $1 million.
Yeah.
A little salty.
Yeah, I get it. I just think like this year, after the last 3-4 years of us saying it's like this skills competition is boring. And this all-star game is boring. And you just hear like all of these people going, like even like the players are like, oh yeah, I kind of hope we lose so I can get out of here and make a tea time. Like, I feel like, this is the NHL at least on the right track in, having some high quality people.
And they're trying something. I get that. I just think, there is space to have casted a wider net with the way you set this up. There was space to do it. And I feel like in some ways it's a missed opportunity, but I don't disagree with your devil's advocate.
Yeah. All-Star weekend starts tonight, Anne, with, I think we have the draft tonight.
Yes.
And we have the PWHL showcase. So
let's go.
A couple of things to look forward to. Overall, you excited for All-Star weekend?
You know what? It's hard for me to say excited because we've talked about it. They have been a little bit of a snoozer, and at times they've been like awkward and almost painful to watch sometimes. But I'm excited to see what this feels like because like we've talked about, they're doing something different. So I am going in with an open mind and a little bit hopeful that it's going to be kind of fun.
Yeah. Showcase tonight should be fun just because the PWHL, I think, has been a strong success.
Yes.
Early on. I'm excited to kind of see, a little bit of a different take on the All-Star game this year. Justin Bieber versus Tate McRae for supremacy in the NHL. I do love that the NHL in Toronto is getting some, celebrities involved in this. So I don't know. Like, I'm looking forward to kind of giving this a chance and seeing what this turns out to be.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Tomorrow on the Locked On Predators podcast, we will do takes from a hat, look ahead to All-Star Weekend, and other more fun stuff. If by off chance there's some crazy Preds news that pops up between now and then, because hey, anything is possible at this point. And where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
You can read my work at penaltyboxradio.com. Follow me on the socials at _NSMorgan. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Back tomorrow with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.